And I'm Kayla, the host. And please, if you have any question, please just leave in the Q&A section, and we will going to answer it if we have more time when we finish the whole thing. And for the parents in WeChat, because we're doing two live streaming today, both in YouTube and WeChat. So if you're in WeChat, please just send us the direct message as well. And we're trying to answer it like once we get the questions. All right. And okay, thank you guys for coming today. So these two amazing people sitting next to me is Michael and Selena, who teaching the science competition course in QS. And can I have you guys to do the introduction for the parents, the self-introduction?
Yeah, sure. I'm Selena. I'm currently studying engineering and science at Monash. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing the double major.
Yeah.
Like, would you like to let the parents know which major you're doing in?
Yeah, sure. So in science, I'm doing computational science, and in engineering, I'm looking at materials.
Yeah. Thank you. And Michael?
Hello, my name is Michael. I graduated from University of Melbourne studying Bachelor of Biomedicine. I majored in anatomy and physiology, and up until now, I've been studying, chemistry, biology, and physics. And actually, next year, I'm actually hoping to apply for a different course in university, hoping to go into law school maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, so changing career, which I'll talk about later as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. And okay, so is there anything you would like to share about when you're doing the science? Because you're both in science doing science in the university levels. So what made you choose this path, like to the science journey?
I really enjoyed learning science as soon as we started in high school. I loved the theory aspects and the practical ones. And completing science subjects like chemistry and physics in IB really pushed me towards continuing that in university.
Yeah, what about you, Michael?
For me, it's quite different actually. Yes, from a young age, I did really have a great interest in science, especially marine biology.
Yeah.
But in high school, it was a bit difficult for me. I didn't really excel or perform really well in science. I was actually encouraged by my teachers to drop chemistry as a BC subject because my scores are so poor. But the reason why I actually still decided to go into biomedicine was because I felt that, I knew that despite my low scores, that my true interest in learning was around science, especially chemistry and biology. So that's why I started studying biomedicine. And throughout my studies in university, I started learning physics, which became my favorite science now. And yeah, and I think you don't really know what you're going to study, when you're in high school. I think as you learn, as you become more exposed to different, courses, different fields of science, or even other fields of learning, you start finding, oh, this might be my career, this might be my career. And that's why, I see a lot of people at university level still have, different career changes at different times in their lives.
That's what make you change to the law school after it. Okay, I've noticed you went to Melbourne High at high school. Like, is there any differences between the like what I taught in science in Melbourne High?
Well, Melbourne High, I don't really know a lot about other schools, but I do know a lot about Melbourne High because I went there. It is I wouldn't say, the teachers are much different. Of course, they are very supportive and everything, but the peers is what's, influences us the most. Yes, it's competitive, but they're all very supportive as well. But all of them are very academically driven, especially in the STEM field, science and mathematics. That way, even though I wasn't really, the best student or the smartest student, because all my friends, studying well, they're all high achieving, that does motivate me to keep up with them to study more.
Yeah, that's good to know. Like, when you at the high school, like, are you the type of experiment at home or the last minute equipment?
Personally, for me, I think I'm more of the experiment at home.
Okay.
I don't really like to cram because I know that if I cram, I'm not really going to actually learn it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I'm going to be studying, every time.
Oh.
But I do like to learn things through experimenting, through watching documentaries, watching experiments.
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
that's
good
how
idea.
I learn science well. That's actually how I grow interest in science.
Mm.
Rather than starting from textbook, from books, I start from real life examples or real life scenarios, and that's what leads me to, study the books. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good idea. Like parents said the camera, like please take a note about this. And what about you, Selena?
I absolutely was a last minute crammer.
Okay.
But when I studied, it would often be with my friends because we would take the same subjects and we would be able to test each other
Mm.
on the topics. And I thought that was a really fun way to study, even if it was at the last minute.
So you're doing like a group study.
Yeah.
Like, is that what MLC encouraging you to do that?
I think because the IB cohort at my school was quite small,
Mhm.
we all had a pretty close-knit community.
Mhm.
So being able to have them as support it was pretty natural for us to just study all together because of the small cohort.
Okay. Is there any like interesting science or felt like about in your studying journey?
I would say when I was doing like the practicals for chemistry, I think I was cursed because like almost every time I would break something.
Okay.
A lot of shattered glassware. But
Like in what age?
like starting in like year 11. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Michael?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. From year 8, year 9, year 10, I did fail a lot of my science exams.
Oh.
In year 11, my BC chemistry the reason why my teacher encouraged me to drop BC was because I got told to send my findings. So yeah, I mean, fair enough. I understand the teacher, but that's now looking back. I think the reason why I didn't really perform well in, BC chemistry or science in high school was because I never really liked textbook style learning. Of course, I really enjoyed being exposed to science,
Yeah.
but I was more of a person who likes being exposed to science outdoors or in real life rather than sitting down, looking at a book, looking at pictures. And that's when I went to university and kind of changed the way I learned. I didn't really like watching lectures. I'd rather go on to watch YouTube channels and watch other professors actually do things out, experiment it out, and explain as they do. And I think that's really important for high school students as well. Don't be so fixated that chemistry or physics or biology is just like math, where you just got to memorize and learn. I mean, try to aim for understanding and see how these sciences actually apply in real life.
Yeah.
Because that's what science is. It's about learning the different phenomena that happen in real life.
And that's why they're going to like encourage all the competition as well, right?
Yeah,
they're going to mix every single subject's areas of knowledge and put it on the text. And like after listening all your stories, would you like to choose some emoji that I show you in the from desk that to describe your science learning journey so far?
Sure.
Like for the audience, I've prepared some emoji in the front desk for them to choose to describe their science journey so far. So, any ideas about this? I think we can make 2.
Okay.
Like at least 2 to describe.
Sure. I'll have 3.
You have 3?
Yeah.
Like the bottom 3?
3. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say why.
Okay, so my first one is the light bulb.
Yeah, you just like
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think there are so many light bulb moments when you're studying science. There's maybe you've come across a topic and you think, I don't get this at all until at some point you just go, oh my gosh. Or maybe you see how the science you've learned can be applied in real life. You see it out in the real world and you think, oh my gosh, this is what I learned in chemistry class last week. I think those are real light bulb moments.
Yeah. What about the second? The books?
I would say the books and the test tube together.
Just show the audience as well. You can see the
because because I think most of my science journey in high school and in university has been a combination of studying theory and applying it to the practical senses. So a lot of experiments and seeing how we can actually see the science that we learned in class applied to something that we could see in front of us.
Makes sense. What about you, Michael?
For me, it's going to be these two. First of all, we have our magnifying glass.
We can show it on the camera.
So the magnifying glass represents, curiosity, and I guess I'm always looking for more, or looking for new things, looking for explanation. And this one is kind of like a mind explosion.
Yes.
This one's more of like, whether it be shock that I realized something, or that, hey, my thoughts or my explanations weren't actually right. And the reason why I say it's a sequence is chemistry, physics, and biology, all of the sciences, there's no limitation. The depth is so great that you'll never learn everything, even if you study for the rest of your life. And I was always in high school and university, always looking to learn new things, realizing that, yes, they were right or they were not. And then that leads me to new questions. So I guess in summary, I wanted to say to students, if you really want to learn science, you got to be curious. You got to have great passion, and you got to have that natural curiosity to drive you to learn more. Never ever think that, learning something that's going to be the end. There's always going to be more to it. There's going to be more depth to it, especially in, biology and chemistry.
Yeah, it's a continuous journey for students to learn science. So what do you think the top 3 core skills that students need to build to success in science? Any analyzing?
Okay, top 3. I would say one of them is probably being able to make connections between the things that you learn. So that could be between like different topics, right? Or it could also be between like, again, what you've learned and what you can see in real life. Being able to think, where have I seen this before? Where am I going to see this? How does this connect to something I've learned before? It really helps because it stops you from trying to just think of science as something that you memorize and something that more of something that you understand. Understanding how everything comes together. And I think you see that a lot when you study, I guess, when I was studying IB, when you learn a lot of topics at once, you can kind of see like the intricate web of science, I guess. You can see how everything is connected.
Yes.
Even between disciplines, like you can see how physics is just applied in chemistry and how chemistry is applied in biology. So making connections is a really useful skill, I think, for students studying science.
Is there any samples that you can make them better understanding the connection between different areas of science?
Yeah, sure. So when I went to the synchrotron, which is like a particle accelerator near Monash, it was for my physics class. But in that one, we were learning about how it's applied, how we can use that physics to learn more about chemistry, and how we can learn about basically like the structure of the substances in chemistry. And I thought, oh, this is something that I learned in chemistry outside of physics, but they're all connected.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Michael?
I actually kind of have something very similar. So I completely agree. All sciences are connected.
Yeah.
I think alongside that, from my observation, I think people who have a very logical mind, people who are able to use logical thinking, logical reasoning, they do excel really well, perform well in sciences. And the reason is because science is all about making connections, as you said. When we have certain information, you've got to be able to analyze what that information carries and the limitations of that information to be able to deduce the conclusion that is there.
Yeah.
And that's what all sciences are trying to do, to provide you with explanations for different things that happen in real life. And when we have multiple explanations coming together, then you'll have them lead to a bigger explanation.
Yeah.
And that's what current scientists are trying to do. Trying to look for more explanations for more different things and seeing how they can be used in our daily lives.
And that's what you learned in the uni as well?
Not really, actually. I still see a lot of uni students because when I teach CAPSAT, which is for medical school, I still see a lot of uni students who are still stuck to the high school style learning, which is just memorize, do well on tests, get good marks, and then forget everything. And it's pretty disappointing, to be honest, because I previously remember a student who supposedly did masters of physics engineering, and when we went through some physics questions together, physics concepts together, yes, they remembered a lot of formulas. They were really good calculations,
Mm.
Concept style questions, they were really good at it, better than me. And then as soon as it went to application and we were trying to explain certain phenomena, or we had to combine or integrate multiple physics concepts together, then, they were nowhere.
Oh.
It might sound shocking, but that is reality because in university, everyone's trying to just get good marks.
Mm.
But if you really want to excel and pursue a career in science and you really want to continue that career for potentially the rest of your life,
Mm.
you really need to study not like that, but in a way to understand and for you to actually take it as knowledge rather than just a memory.
Yeah, that's so good advice as well. And I think Michael's already gave me some like some idea about how he saw the students, his peers, like learning in science area. Like, what about you? Like, does there any teaching moment or student story that stuck with you?
Yeah, sure. So when I was teaching the big science preparation competition this year, we were looking at around year 8 level physics. We were looking at energy. That was about as far as I wanted to go, was about year 8 level. But because the students were so curious and had so many talented question asking skills, we kind of got to like a VCE level of physics, of understanding like the formulas and how we came to those formulas and how how to apply the information that we're learning. And I was really impressed with them because they wanted to learn that much and they were really interested in it. And I think that really helped them understand the content they've been learning.
Yeah, I think we have like the smallest, I think it's year 4 student joining her class on last it was a holiday program, right? Like joining the holiday program, and they would actually excel on the big science competition. So like I think we just don't need to limit yourself for doing the science as long as you feel passionate about it. Just like we're welcome to join and to challenge yourself. And is there any like student that like surprising you like during this teaching journey, like except that those younger ones?
I would say students, they might not seem like students might think that they're not very good at science at the beginning. And they might think science is this huge thing for smart people. But as soon as you kind of find that interest in yourself to once you follow that path of, I wonder why this is along the course of science, I think they gained a lot of skills from that, even if they didn't mean to. And I think that really helped when they were applying themselves to questions for science. So they ended up performing better than they expected because of that passion for understanding whys, which I think is the basis.
Yeah. What about your student story, Michael?
I mean, there's a lot of students who surprise me, but I'm not going to name names, but there are definitely some students who are really crazy for science, crazy for certain specific areas of science as well. And in my science classes previously throughout QS, they might be very different to what a lot of people might expect, rather than just me teaching off the board or me teaching off the book. We have a lot of class discussions. Sometimes, half the class is just discussions. And the great thing about these discussions and why I, let them talk and ask questions is because we might start from one topic and that might stem into a question leading to another topic, which opens up the field of, for example, chemistry, which leads to physics. And then we look at biology, and now we're looking at, the human body. Everything's all interconnected, and that way students are not only just able to share their own thoughts, share their own questions, but also they can actually see how we just went from one topic to the next, and now we're all the way at a different field. So, yeah, I really enjoy having those discussions.
Is it only on JSO competition class?
This is in every single science class that I do. I always have, a portion of the class where we're just only discussing.
Okay.
So I'll bring up the topic for
What
that
do
one.
they actually asking about? Is it like more about academic or is it about like how to apply it in
It's
actual life?
about specific like science topics.
Okay.
Like for example, we're looking at atomic chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to them how atomic chemistry is really the core of chemistry itself. It's what drives everything. Chemistry is all about reactions and blah blah blah. And we really started from atomic chemistry, where we're looking at basic protons, electrons, and neutrons, all the way to different types of bondings, and how that leads to looking at what compounds can form what bonds, what atoms can form what bonds, and in the end, on the board, we have a whole mind map, starting from a really basic fundamental concept, stemming on to much more advanced topics.
Yeah.
And I really do encourage every student who wishes to study or is studying science to study something like that in that manner, because that way not only will it be more enjoyable for them, but actually be a lot more beneficial when they actually come to solving questions in science.
I noticed you found a Discord group like last year. Like, do they have like asking you any science question during that chat?
Oh no, okay. So yeah, sometimes my other students, like that are not in my science classes, will ask me questions about science.
Oh.
I've had, I think last year, there was a student in my PC prep class who is a lovely student. But yeah, all of a sudden he started asking about physics because I told him how I studied physics in university, and then I sent him I sent him my book that I wrote about physics, and I sent him my book, and he started reading. I didn't know how to read it actually because it wasn't actually meant for high school students.
Okay.
But he comes to me the next week and he said, "Oh, Michael, I read it all," and then now he's actually doing BC physics.
Wow.
That's really rewarding for me because
Yes.
I was able to open up, I guess, a science thing.
There's actually some parents asking if we have any books to recommend for them to doing the VC level science. Would you like to name the books for them?
Oh,
like
well, actually, I didn't really do a lot of VC science. All I did was chemistry.
Okay.
But I mean, yes, textbooks are great. I mean, textbooks have what they should have, or what you should learn. But I think students really need to find, first of all, what style of learning do they really enjoy, and what type of learning helps them. Because for me, reading a textbook doesn't really help. For me, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really help. I can read a textbook for all day, and I can gain nothing from it. But on the other hand, I might watch maybe on YouTube. Maybe another professor. Yeah,
maybe that's the way you like to learn.
That's how I like to learn. I'll just
watch with it,
yeah.
and like everything's like more engaging.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I noticed you designing our JSO textbook.
Yes.
Like, what do you think you made the difference between the like you call the normal textbook?
There's not much. Actually, honestly, there's not much difference. Of course, I wrote it in a way so students can understand it better. I try to make more links between topics, but I think the main difference in the JSO lessons that I've created comes from the lesson itself.
Yeah.
Because yes, I have a lot of content in the books. I have a lot of content in the modules, but that doesn't mean we're going to go through exactly everything one by one.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might focus on one topic more than the other. Sometimes I might bring in another topic.
Okay.
I even tell my students in the JSO that the JSO is not going to tell you what questions they're going to ask. They can ask questions from various topics. So if you have a certain topic in mind, or if you have a certain topic you're curious about, let me know, and we can discuss about that in a part of our lesson. So yeah, that open-ended mindset when it comes to science learning is great.
Okay, that's good to know. And like, since we mentioned about JSO, like I think Selena is the only one that currently having the experience about this competition right now. Yeah. Like, would you like to share some advice for preparing the JSO?
Sure. So the JSO is really interesting competition because it's pretty different to the kind of questions that you would do in class. It's usually quite applied and have a specific scenario that they're asking you to examine. But I think they do tell you generally what kind of content they can test you on. So having a good grasp of the basics of all four disciplines of the chemistry, physics, biology, and math science, and being able to look at what kind of applications each of them have. And I would say another key point is, I guess, what I would call science literacy. So being able to demonstrate skills like being able to look at a piece of text and understand what kind of science they're explaining, and being able to apply that kind of science to questions they might ask. Being able to look at diagrams and graphs and understand what kind of information they're communicating. Those kind of skills, practicing that will be really useful for the kind of questions in the JSO. And what's really useful is they have those free past papers, and looking at them is really useful because you can actually see what kind of questions they're asking. And that's pretty good preparation.
And this is how you're getting the high distinction on that competition.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise. I wasn't expecting, because I just kind of went into it to see what it was. But yeah, I would say the result is not the key part of it, but it's a really different kind of experience to the rest of what you might do in science at school. So I'd say I would really recommend doing the JS.
Yeah. Then what do you think the difference between you doing the JSO competition and your regular science exam?
Yeah, so the science exam for schools, they usually are just like testing what they've taught you. So if you've learned a certain topic in 1 week, they might have a question that's specifically testing you on what they taught you. But for JSO, it's really about testing your conceptual understanding and how you're able to apply that. So it's not something that they're not going to ask you a question about something that you've specifically studied. They're going to ask you to think about what you've studied and how you can use that information to answer that question.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, even though you haven't participated in JSO before, but you're actually working with like many high performing students in the class. Is that like, did you find anything in common with them? Like for the ones who already achieved high score in their science exam?
Anything common? Yeah, definitely. First of all, of course, all of them, as I said before, they're all really crazy for science. When I say crazy, I don't mean just, they're naturally smart. I'm saying that they're very curious people. All the time in class, you can tell that even though all the students might be listening, there's a difference between just listening and actively participating in discussions. And all the students who perform really well are always asking questions. And those questions might sound very dumb sometimes, or they might not. But the fact that they're always so curious means, their potential to learn is a lot larger. Okay. So yeah, first of all, they're all very curious people, always really open to learn. Next thing would be, as I said earlier, they have a very logical mindset.
Yes.
They have, meaning, I don't need to explain or specifically state how one leads to another. If I give them two premises, meaning just two pieces of information, they're able to utilize them, combine them together, and extrapolate. Hang on, that must lead to this conclusion. And this logical thinking process is very, very important in science, because science, as I said, is all about explanation. And of course, there are students who are not like that, who don't have a logical mindset, or like maybe fall a bit short with the logical mindset.
Is that actually the key skill that I require in science reasoning?
I wouldn't say specifically for science reasoning. Of course, science reasoning is a lot of logics, but I think just in general, when you're learning science, you do need to have or use logical thinking. It is. I'm certain with that. Yeah.
Okay. And does it take like a certain critical part in the competition or the science exam?
Well,
as well?
I don't want to. Because I haven't done any science competitions, so I'm not 100% sure. But I would say so, definitely.
That's the foundation of the science learning.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the year 7 beginner, like, because we're currently talking about the high school levels, like, what about for the younger age? Because we have many students, many parents joining today who are only doing year 6 right now. So for like the younger beginner, what's the recommendation for them to starting to starting points at science competition or just science learning?
I think at year 7, science is such a new topic. It's a new field because you don't really do a lot of it in primary school. And so I would say don't stress a lot about being good at science or like getting high results in those big science competitions or JSO. I would say try and develop a strong foundation of skills that you need for science learning. Take a look at topics that you're interested in already. So there's a lot of online resources like YouTube videos and stuff, and seeing how you like absorbing that kind of information. If you're able to think of a question in your mind and try and approach answering that question through the resources that you have. And then in preparation for these competitions, I would say just try and like don't be too stressed about results. Just have a go at it. For big science, and JSO, there's one every year. But being exposed to those kind of questions, that kind of thinking is really useful as you build up to doing these kind of competitions.
Yeah, do you have like maybe a certain exam or competition that you recommend them to do at like in this age?
Yeah, I would say big science is pretty friendly for year 7s especially. It's focused on the curriculum that you learn at school. And it does test both your understanding of the content and also your ability to apply both the content that you learn at school and the information that they give you. So it's a good mix of the different levels of scientific thinking and scientific understanding.
What about the ICAS? Do you have any knowledge about the ICAS?
Yeah, ICAS, it's actually available for primary school students too to do the science ICAS. But ICAS is great for developing those skills for scientific, like science literacy. As I mentioned before, that it's very visual, I think, the ICAS. So that's good for developing skills about graphs and diagrams. And so I think that's also pretty friendly for year 7s.
Yeah.
That one's less about your understanding of content. It's about how you scientifically understand the information that they give you.
What about your advice, Michael, for the younger beginner?
I think I really agree with what Selena said. Just based off my experience, even though from a young age I really enjoyed science, the reason why I actually kind of became distant with science at school, academic science, was because from year 7, when science became an actual subject, my parents pressured me a lot. There was a lot of pressure on results. There was a lot of pressure on, hey, Michael, you like science from a young age. Why are you getting these poor scores? And that made me kind of scared of science, learning science and these science tests at school. I really wish, students at going into year 7 not to be so scared or not to be so pressured about results, as Selena said. Really, for parents as well, don't give them a textbook straight away and expect them to study and learn everything. From up until year 7 and even up until year 8 and 9, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be, 100% with the textbook, knowledge at that year level. Rather, I think it's really important to really increase the exposure to science. That doesn't have to be, a textbook. That does not have to be, focused on science learning. It can be really just anything.
Yeah. Like, since we talk about the studying method, like, do you have any advice to share with us about how would they use AI technology to pursue their science study?
Well,
like, how could they better using it? Like, because I think so many parents were struggling about this, like, because maybe the kids will using this AI for cheating on their tags, maybe. Like what's the smart way to using it, you reckon?
Well, to be honest, I finished my university before AI came out.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any, personal experience
Same to me.
with AI use. I wish I did. But I personally don't really think there is a need for use of AI specifically. There are still many other ways students can gain interest and be more exposed to science. Like, as I said earlier, the reason why I continued to have an interest in science is because I really like marine biology. I really liked, fishing is my hobby since a young age.
Okay.
That's because my great aunt, my great uncles are there. They were fishermen in Korea. So yeah, from a young age, I started fishing, learning about, a lot of different marine life. And what my mum did was, when I was really young, she would take me to the park when it's raining to catch worms and insects.
Oh.
She would buy squid from the supermarket, come back home, and we'll dissect it at home. But like, I don't need any technology to do this.
Yeah.
And this way, I become more interested, more passionate, and actually can visualize.
Yeah.
For example, what's inside a squid.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be like so pressure about like cultivating their interest about science and just like they were cultivating in the day-to-day life. And like fishing you just mentioned, I think the parents just don't need to like stress about how to motivate them. Like I think they just come naturally with a curiosity in daily life. Yeah. What about you, Luna? Like because you're currently doing the uni.
Yeah.
Is there any AI technology involved in your study?
Not for me personally, but I do know a lot of my classmates like to use AI. I would just say if you are planning to use AI, be careful because I think a lot of the value in learning science is making those connections yourself.
Yeah.
Being able to guide yourself in your learning journey, and using AI kind of feels like a shortcut, which doesn't let you make those connections.
Yeah, I think once we mention AI, we're not specifically saying ChatGPT or stuff. Like maybe we can using some other technology that you might have learned in the uni. I think some tools.
Yeah.
Like, is there any?
Not that I really know of.
Are you currently like just touching the theoretical part, or is there any experimental things that you will use some tools from? Like,
oh yeah, so like AI is used a lot could be used a lot in data analysis.
Yes.
And we began to look at AI in our computational science classes. And how, I guess, like AI learning, how that works. It is a really interesting topic, and it is going to grow very quickly in the next few years. So I guess developing an interest in how AI works, not just like ChatGPT, but also like AI learning. That's a field that if you're interested in, has a lot to
just embrace embrace the technology, I guess. So would you recommend them like start getting exposure about these tools in younger age, like maybe before the university level?
Yeah, I think they will continue to grow. So being familiar could be useful. But I would say at a high school level, it might be limited, like what kind of tools you'll be able to use.
Makes sense. Okay. I think we get lots of information about this, and like we just talking about the future path about like doing the science. Like, can you just let us know why you choose double degree in engineering and science? Like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I chose to do a double degree because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do in high school. I think both are really rewarding fields. I chose to do science because I really like the science learning process. But engineering is a good opportunity to apply the science that you learn, especially in my specialization in materials. It's a lot of applied chemistry and physics. And it's that kind of application to trying to engineer things to make the world a better place, I guess. To try and think of solutions for problems that we have is, I think, the main goal of engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a really rewarding area to try and apply my science method.
So did you because you did IB on high school, so
Yeah.
does that experience help you to applying or studying the applied science in university?
Yeah, I think IB, if you take the higher level subject specific in particular, I would say they kind of give you a good glimpse into maybe first year university level science. So like in chemistry, I was learning things that I was learning last year in chemistry as well. And they also have they really try to emphasize applications of the science that you learn. And you can that's how I kind of got into thinking about studying engineering, was those applications that they showed me as I was studying IB. Yeah.
Okay, so for Michael, like when you studying the biomed, like how do you see the future science related career like between those areas?
Well,
because I think people like studying, like aiming for biomed might be interesting doing the medical doctor.
Yeah. So in biomed, we have a cohort of people who most of them want to go into medicine. Some of them choose to do dentistry, some do other health sciences, but a lot of them are health science occupations. Well, the reason why I went to actually biomedicine was because I really enjoyed human sciences like biology and anatomy. That's the reason why I majored in anatomy and physiology.
Yeah.
I did want to actually become a doctor as well, but the reason why I kind of changed course pathways was because, yes, I do enjoy that, continuous learning process. When you choose a career as a doctor, you're always learning, and I do enjoy the teaching part as well, the academic part. But just me as a person, like my personality, I realized that it didn't really suit the occupation of a doctor. So that's why I decided, oh, it's not my thing. It was a really quick decision. I felt it straight away, especially comparing to my peers. That's why I kind of diverted pathways. But in terms of future careers and occupations stemming from biomed, a lot of people think that when you go into biomed, you have to become a doctor. You have to become a dentist. If not, there's no other option. But there are so many other options. There are so many other occupations in the health fields, and maybe people will worry, oh, will they have high demand, or could they potentially later be replaced by technology and AI? But I can say for sure that it's really difficult to replace health sciences or health science occupations with AI. And the reason is, as I said earlier, why I changed pathways. Because yes, there is the knowledge and technology and the science aspects to those occupations, but there's also the human side. That human side is very important. And actually, this human side is why a lot of people who want to or wish to pursue, those careers have to change pathways.
Yeah.
And that's why I changed pathways as well. But yeah.
But do you think you still would you regret to do this?
Oh no. I have no regrets.
Okay.
My parents did a lot because I actually changed food. I actually didn't tell my parents.
Okay.
So I told them after I said no. So,
okay.
But I have no regrets. I knew that it wasn't my thing. I knew that it wasn't going to last long.
If you give you one more chance, would you still choosing those subject in VCEs and went to biomed?
I think I'll still go to biomed.
Okay.
I don't really think it's a waste of time. I never think learning is a waste of time. That's why I'm the reason why I'm applying to law school is, hey, law school might not be my thing. I might go in and be like, oh, this is completely different to what I expected. But hey, at least that's something I experienced. I might study for 1 year. At least I studied something for a year, and that's something I learned. So I don't think it's a waste of time. If I'm given another chance, I think I'll still do the same thing. But maybe I won't be so fixated on becoming a doctor. I might be open to more,
more options.
Yeah, I wish I had discovered a lot more fields, a lot more other courses other than just science and environment.
Yeah. I
that
think
way.
that's the option that Unimel's also given you
Yeah.
for at this stage
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And like if you still choosing to doing science in your VCE, like the biology,
Yes.
like would there be any smarter way
Oh,
that you would like to change at the study
yeah.
journey?
Yeah. I really wish I wasn't so, fixed on textbooks.
Okay.
I think that's really what stumbled my progress in
Mhm.
learning in high school. Because honestly, when you get to high school and when you get to VCU level, yes, teachers can help you a lot. Teachers can teach you a lot, but teachers don't have all the time at school, especially. There's one teacher for every class of 25 students, and usually
Yeah.
the teacher teaches 2-3 classes.
Mhm.
They can't help you 24/7. A lot of the time, you have to learn somewhat by yourself as well.
Mm.
And all I thought back then was, oh, all I have is this textbook in front of me. So I was trying to dig around the textbook, trying to look for answers, but it wasn't really coming. I wasn't really coming to my understanding.
Yeah.
So I wish back then, I had maybe like a mentor, or maybe not like a direct mentor, or someone who could actually explain in simple terms,
Yeah.
answer the questions that I had. Not questions as in like exam questions, but actually the questions in my mind about why and how these sciences come together,
Mm.
why they exist. I think that would be really great. Yeah, that would be a lot better for me.
Okay. So like just in terms of your experience, like you plan to change an area, like for the student who still not clear about their future pathway, but already got a little interest about science, would you have any advice for them? Like, what would you say to them if they ask you as the mentor?
Well, don't worry about not knowing what to do.
Okay.
That's normal. I didn't know what to do until year 12, and I still don't know what to do. Who knows?
Okay.
Like,
You will always have
yeah,
chance.
and there's no deadline to choosing a career
Mhm.
pathway. Everyone changes career pathways quickly at any time. Like, I remember in university, I was teaching a father who is a lawyer already, and the reason why I came to him was because he wanted to do the test for medical school. He wanted to go from a lawyer to
Oh.
medical school, which is really surprising. I was like, you already, have a lot of experience as a lawyer, but why do you want to do medical school? And he just said, because it intrigues me. So it's just that pure interest can cause such a dramatic career change at that age. Right now, when you're young,
Yeah.
in high school, or maybe just going to university, you don't need to be so stressed about not knowing what to do. A lot of the people feel stressed because they feel like if they do something and they don't like it, it's a waste of time. But as I said, nothing's going to be a waste of time.
Yes.
If you learn something, you truly learn it, that's going to be knowledge gain.
Yeah.
And that knowledge is going to be valuable more than anything.
Every step counts.
Yeah, it will be worth the time that you spend. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Don't be stressed. If you have interest in science, just keep studying. Keep that interest growing, and one day you'll find a career pathway that you wish to pursue.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. So since we have only 10 minutes left, I've gained some question from the parents who signed up our question form. Maybe we just pick some of this to answer it, like as the Q&A. So, like, okay. So for Michael, like, which competition you think that might help most for going to bioscience, like in the university level?
Okay, to be completely honest, none of them are going to be specifically, beneficial. All of them will have their own benefits.
Only the experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of them is going to be specifically related to a pathway into biomedical science.
I think beside the competition, I think the learning path that you walk through will be the one actually benefit your studying journey.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, this makes sense. And how would you inspire the kids going to science path? Like if they are like still not in the high school level.
Well, I'll just say one thing about science is that science there's no end to learning.
Yeah.
There's no limitation. With math, you learn a formula, you do questions, and you master it. You're done with that formula.
Yeah.
You're done with that math concept.
Mhm.
Like there's no further up. I mean, you don't go from Pythagoras to, Pythagoras part 2,
Yeah.
But in let's say biology,
Mm.
you learn maybe about cells, you learn about, cell organelles, and then you look at their functions.
Mhm.
And the next thing you learn is you're looking at the biochemical reactions there.
Yeah.
You're looking at how those biochemical reactions are related to each other or how they're controlled and regulated.
Mm.
And then when you look at regulation, you're looking at enzymes. So there's so much depth to it. So
Yeah.
if you're really a person who enjoys learning, continuous learning, then science will definitely be something you'll really like.
Mm.
Because trust me, you'll learn one thing and you'll be learning the next.
Yeah. So this like step by step,
Mhm.
it's not have to be in one pass, but like start from many areas. Okay, so like for Selena, let me choose a question. How to self-study and not only for a competition?
Right. So I think being able to guide yourself in your study is a really important skill, not only for science, but just for all kinds of learning.
Mm.
But the most, I would say, a key step is to understand how you learn best, whether you want to learn from other people or from learning by doing your own research, learning by reading, by watching videos. Seeing what's effective for you is really important. And then I think for self-study, if you want to learn about it, there's usually a lot of resources. And being able, I guess, learn how to find resources is I think the most important part of self-study. Yeah.
Any ideas?
Mm.
Except the competition. I think you already mentioned a lot about how to study from different area. But is that like, would you think that help if we attend another class, like maybe in class even, like to do this self-study to grow their interest or studying passion about science?
Mm. Well, for me, self-study self-study all involved or started kind of from either let's say an Instagram reel or a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like it never
Okay.
started from a textbook. And
It's
when
definitely
you're
the most
yeah,
interesting way to learn it.
when you're doing self-study at home, I think it's important you, let's say for physics, experiment it out. Really. That's what I do in my class. In my class, if you come to my physics class in QS, you'll see me throwing things around the class. And the reason why I do this is because I really need to show it and demonstrate it.
Yeah.
Because if I just give them a formula, sure, they'll be able to follow a formula and calculate, but they won't be able to understand, why this relationship exists. But if I'm able to demonstrate it with a couple students as well, they're able to actually visualize.
Would you show them the video in the class as well?
Not really videos in class. I'd rather just do the thing
Okay.
in class. So if you're studying science at home, and if it's safe, experiment that at home. Ask your parents to grab the ingredients or grab what you need. As long as it's safe, try it at home, because that way, first of all, it's more interesting. Second of all, you get to see. You get to see it, and it gets stuck in your brain longer.
Yes. And like if there's any question, just welcome to type on the Q&A area as well if you're in YouTube. So okay, so I think that's a good idea that you mentioned for the younger age as well. Like what if the parents still like worry about this too many screen time for the children? Like what if they worry about like they're not able to starting with this in like Instagram Reels or YouTube, like except for experiments in real life? What else you usually do?
I mean, I mentioned studying with friends.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not sure at a primary school level, I guess. I guess if you're preparing for things. I mean, so are we talking about like how they can learn more about science without
Yeah, without the extra screen time.
I think if you have an opportunity to talking to people who know a lot about science is really useful. I mean, like you can just talk to your teachers about why is this the case? Why can't you put metal in the microwave?
Oh yeah.
Just like asking questions about why and how is a good way to expand your knowledge about science without needing to go online, I guess. But that does depend on who you know. But hopefully there's somebody in your life who is really involved in science or has a lot of interest in it as well that you can go to for that kind of experience.
Yeah. That's good. So the last 5 minutes, I guess we just gave everyone, like, we just have one sentence of encouragement for students who feel not smart enough in science. Have you guys prepared any of the encouragement for the students? Like stuff on who? Michael?
Well, no one starts off as smart in anything. Lots of science as well. Yes, you might have a natural talent in understanding, but no one starts off having learned science. But if you don't study, you're just not going to be smart forever. You're not going to be smart enough. So don't be afraid to study science. Don't be afraid that science is, a difficult, large, broad field of learning. Take that step by step. I think what Selena said earlier, find something you're really interested in, specifically. Start there. Like that way, that will lead to other fields of science. And later on, you'll be learning a whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I would say if you feel like you're starting from a low point, that only means that you have, more potential to go up. And there's no like being smart enough. It's always just getting better and better. There's no end point to it. You're not at some point just smart enough. You just keep learning, keep developing those skills. So not being smart enough just means that you get more practice at developing skills. So I wouldn't stress about it. The point of science isn't to be smart, it's to understand how things work.
Yeah. Yeah, short in one sentence, just don't stress.
Yeah, don't stress is the one sentence of encouragement.
Yeah, science is not about smart. Yeah, I think that's great. So like I guess the audience already gave a lots of interesting and inspiring advice from you guys. And so on 11th of June, we're going to hold our first JSO competition in QS. So if anyone like who are interested, and we're welcome to sign up in here as well. And Michael will be here to supervising them and sit with them. I guess maybe some of us might provide like an extra tutoring section for preparing the competition as well. Just make sure you will get your confidence and interest in the actual competition. And the good news is the big science competition result from 2 weeks before just released today. And we did have some good results. Wait, so we have some Q&A. Okay, say hi, Dave. Who's Dave? Okay, I think, yeah, that's it, I think.
I think we've covered most.
Yeah, we've covered most of it. And yes, I think that's it. Wait, is there any other coming? Thanks. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Like, sign up for the competition, and we might prepare some like extra tutoring afterward. And stay tuned. And thank you guys for joining. All right, thank you very much. Right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.